Okay, hello, hi everyone. Welcome to the Graduate Certificate in Vision Impairment Masterclass today. My name's Nicole. I'm the Senior Recruitment Product Manager for the Medicine and Health faculty, and I'll just give you a quick intro before the event kicks off. Before we begin, we would like to first acknowledge the Bidjigal, Gadigal, and Ngunnawal people who are the traditional custodians of the land on which UNSW campuses stand on, as well as the traditional custodians of the land that we are presenting on today. We would like to pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and would like to extend those respects to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people present with us today. So before we begin, just a quick overview on UNSW. We're a big world-renowned institution. We have over 60,000 students who study over 300 degrees across 7 different faculties. And regardless of what you study, UNSW has a strong focus on career development with a central work integrated learning platform for all our students, making us one of Australia's #1 universities for employment outcomes. We have various achievements that we're proud of, and we'd like to highlight a few. We score highly on academic rankings and are ranked in the top 20 institutions globally. This just highlights not only the quality of our academics research, but the quality of the education that the university provides. With a strong focus on employability, UNSW has Australia's most employable students. And if you're interested in entrepreneurship, UNSW has produced more CEOs than any other Australian university. Now a little bit about the faculty. At Medicine and Health, we're proud of our world-leading researchers in health and medical areas that affect people all over the world. And the School of Vision Science is ranked in the top 2 schools worldwide. Our research is unparalleled across basic, applied, and clinical research in vision science. And we are proud to be recognised as being in the top 2% of ophthalmic scientists worldwide. As the largest optometry and vision school in Australia, we host top-class facilities, including our own practicing optometry clinic. So now that you've heard a little bit about UNSW and the School of Vision Science, I will hand you over to Associate Professor Juno Kim, who will let you know more about the Graduate Certificate in Vision Impairment. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Nicole, and welcome everyone. Demand for disability services is on the rise in Australia, and Australia as a population is, as we grow both in size and also in age, we increase the prevalence of vision impairment, vision loss, and also visual disability. So we've taken the initiative to establish our very new graduate certificate in vision impairment, which is purposely constructed in order to provide students from diverse industry backgrounds with the ability to upskill and enhance their knowledge and expertise in vision impairment as well as vision rehabilitation. This is a very unique program. There's nothing like it in Australia, and it provides students with the flexibility over their program so that as graduates, they may be able to engage more effectively with people who have low vision or who are blind and the people who support them, and also to work better in governance around visual disability. So whether it's the government or private sector, we're increasingly seeing more reliance on policies and procedures being created around health, equity, diversity, and inclusion, as well as safety. And it's important for people with vision impairment and vision loss and visual disability to be a part of that, that narrative and a part factored in when developing any new policy. Also, there's coursework available, optional to students, to be able to recognise opportunities for creating innovative solutions to support people affected by vision impairment. So this involves assistive technologies, and just imagine being able to create an assistive technology to support someone who may be blind or have vision impairment as they go about their everyday activities. Whether it's using an app or something like that, there is study options available within this program. So there's huge diversity available within this program to support your career needs. And for that reason, the entry criteria for this program is completely unrestricted. So you only need to hold an AQF level 7 qualification, a bachelor's degree in any area. So we recognise that vision impairment can impact industries all over. It doesn't matter what industry, vision impairment is an emerging factor that we need to consider. So that's why this program is entirely open. It's open to domestic and international students, and for domestic students, there are a limited number of Commonwealth supported places available, and they will be assigned on merit by the admissions team. I do suggest that you get your applications in as early as possible if you are interested in enrolling into this program after tonight's masterclass. And if you're an international student, you can enjoy the prospect of engaging in coursework that is delivered completely online, remotely from your home country. So you can undertake this entire program completely remotely outside of Australia. You only just have to be willing to commence studies in term 1 of 2025. So that's about the middle of February. So again, if you are really interested in getting involved in this program and enrolling in this program, then please consider looking at the information on Apply Online after this masterclass. But to give you a little bit of overview of the program structure, it involves a 3+1 course design. So the 24 units of credit in total, we have 3 core courses totaling 18 units of credit and 1 free elective worth 6 units of credit. And that is a prescribed elective that you can choose amongst a group of 5 to tailor the program to meet your needs. Study can be undertaken part-time or full-time, and the mode of study for core courses is completely online. Electives are also generally available online, except for biomedical engineering's rehabilitation, engineering and assistive technologies course, which involves hands-on activities that involve workshops that must be completed on campus here at UNSW. But aside from that course, all the other courses can be taken online and remotely. So for the core courses, there are 3 key core courses, and that'll be some information about the subject matter you can expect in those courses will be covered in tonight's masterclass. I won't go into too much detail now. But these courses are taken back-to-back over 2 consecutive terms and able to be completed entirely online. But then you have that free elective, and that's really the free elective that adds this edge to this program, because it allows you to tailor your program to suit your career journey. And this is achieved through this elective coursework that's available. So in term 1, you will complete 2 core courses, and in term 2, you'll complete your 3rd core course, vision rehabilitation. But it's at this point where you can choose amongst 5 prescribed electives to complete your program. So in term 2, you may choose to enroll in rehabilitation, engineering and assistive technologies, which provides you with insight on the broader implications of rehabilitation and the requirements associated there, and how you can identify a particular need, functional need for a particular group in the community, and design an assistive technology to support them. So just think about what you could potentially do with people who have a functional need due to a vision loss, and how you can use technology to enhance their ability to apply themselves to their community. So that's just one structure for this program that may be relevant to you and your lifelong journey. Alternatively, you may be interested in research. So we have a research skills course which you can take, and it will provide you with the ability to more effectively critically appraise a real-world problem in vision science and perhaps vision rehabilitation, so that you can generate new knowledge and understanding through scientific inquiry and appropriate scientific method. So that can be taken in term 2, or it can also be taken in term 3 if you want to stretch your program out over a full year as a part-time student. There are 2 electives available from the School of Population and Health, and one of those is Health Promotion and Social Perspectives of Health. This course provides students with insight into how health promotion is not about trying to fix problematic individuals, but more about shaping the broader social, cultural, political, economic, and also physical aspects of our communities and our environment, so that we can better enhance that synergy between the community and these groups that are affected, so that we can make healthier choices easier to select. So just think about, in the context of vision impairment, how can we increase that synergy between general society and people with vision loss, not just supporting them, but making their ability to contribute to society through work and social engagement more effective, and thus enhancing their quality of life and well-being. Alternatively, there's another course. If you're interested in getting into public policy, then you may consider ethics and law in public health, which is also offered by School of Population Health. So this course sort of like primes you to be ready to identify potential legal and ethical issues as they may arise when developing any new healthcare policy. It's important to ensure that particular groups, like people who are visually impaired or have vision loss, are factored into this equation, and that we are generating new policies and procedures that accommodate their needs. So if you're interested in policy, then this is a program structure that may work for you in your career journey. And then within our own school, we also have development and aging implications for orientation and mobility. And this course provides you with insight into how vision impairment, how it can have profound implications on a person's life at any stage of the developmental life cycle, from early childhood development right through to our aging population, where we have an increased prevalence of vision impairment, but also certain comorbidities associated with that. And it's important to be cognizant of those as they arise, so that we can better manage and support people with vision impairment. So again, yet another structure. I'm sure if you think about it, how you can tailor your program using these coursework electives, you can think about it from your own learning background and industry background, how you could tailor this program to really advance your career in a way that's appropriate for you and personal for you. There are no constraints on these courses, so other than the School of Population Health, just require that you complete 18 units of credit in coursework before enrolling into one of their courses and have maintained a weighted average mark of 65 or more. So that's a credit or better. So when you've completed your foundational core courses of the Graduate Certificate in Vision Impairment, and you've attained a weighted average mark following term 2 of 65 or more, then you'll automatically be able to enroll into these public health courses. Choose any one of those to complete your program in term 3. But that's the only restriction. All other electives are freely able to be selected. But beyond the Graduate Certificate in Vision Impairment, you may choose to further your studies. So one option that's available is to perhaps transfer into a Graduate Diploma in Orientation and Mobility, which teaches you how to go about becoming an orientation and mobility specialist. There's work integrated learning involved in this program, and I'm sure we have multiple delegates from this program present in this conversation tonight. So if you have any questions about this program, I'm sure they'll be happy to answer them. So that's one option for further study. And also we have the Master of Philosophy. So for any students who undertake coursework in the Graduate Certificate in Vision Impairment, who then want to further their and advance their knowledge in research capabilities and undertake further coursework, then the Master of Philosophy may be right for you. I'm happy to talk to anyone, anytime about that program. But beyond the Graduate Certificate in Vision Impairment, there are a range of potential job opportunities available. If you're looking for a career change, you can turn your attention towards employment in being an accessibility consultant, like not just for physical spaces, but also virtual spaces and online content. Assistive technology specialization, as well as working in the disability sector or the NDIA or NDIS. Also, there's opportunities available in vision rehabilitation support work and general community work. But I think the real benefits of the program will come from you advancing what you already do well just a little bit further to accommodate people who have vision loss or vision impairment. So just an example, just off the top of my head, you might have a you might have a bachelor's degree in architecture, and now you want to go and design better homes and better built environments to support the needs of people with vision impairment, or provide facilities that are going to be more conducive of visual rehabilitation. So I'm sure you can think of many ways that this program can work for you, and happy to talk about the opportunities that are available in the Q&A. But I'm just going to now hand it over to Associate Professor Siu Ku, who will share his slides for tonight's masterclass.
No worries at all, Juno. I'll just share my slides and then we can get started. There we go. Hopefully my screen will come up very soon.
Yep, can see it.
Great, thank you very much, Juno. And thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you about this this program. And I guess the goal of this masterclass, I realize that we are somewhat time poor, and my goal is to get through a condensed version as to why this program we've proposed this, created this program, and highlighting some of the bigger issues with visual impairment and its implications, particularly psychosocial, but on society and the community, but also how the program itself sets up a person to address some of these concerns. Now, Juno's talked about some of the roles that that one can do after obtaining such a qualification, and I'd like to, in this masterclass, talk a bit more about the visual system in general, talk about a summary of some of the materials that you would experience and be taught in the program itself, and also talk about some of the motivations behind why we think that this is such a valuable and important program to have. So I'm hoping, it's 6:15 now, hoping to take no more than about 10 to 15 minutes, because I really want to give people the opportunity to ask us questions. We have on the call here people from who will be teaching in the program itself, and also coordinating the everyday aspects of the courses that you'll be experiencing. So it's an opportunity for me just to summarize some of the key things and the key motivations behind why this program exists. So what I want to do, and as the term masterclass implies, is to provide you with some insight into the visual system first. I'll talk about the importance of vision, and the implications of visual impairment on daily function and on behaviours, and why it's important to know this from the general context of providing services to the community, and also how it directly relates to many occupations that people may have in, and Juno's already mentioned some, in architecture, even in other allied health. Knowing about the visual system is really important, because clients with visual impairment will have a massive impact on you, how you deliver services. So let's spend a little while quickly talk about the visual system and the importance of vision, and why it's for me as a vision scientist over 25 years, why it's such an important thing to know, and also what's so fascinating about it. So we'll take it right back and we'll take it through. And one of the courses that is part of this program is the visual system, talking about the visual system in general. So let's start off talk about vision. Vision is a very complex process. Now, why do we need the visual system? And the reason why is that vision itself is it's our primary source of sensory information about the three-dimensional world. If you look around and interact with your world, it's usually the visual system that is the main system through which we try to understand and acquire information for visually guided behavior. And it's from light energy, and light is something which is a constant in the world, and our visual system has evolved to capitalize on the fact that it is a constant, and the visual world itself is rich with information. So I'm just going to put on my laser pointer here, but if you look at this particular scene, the information about color, about form, about detail, contrast, there are aspects of the world itself, and that's information that is very, very useful for interactions with the environment itself. Now, where this is perhaps the best demonstrated, I'm going to turn off to close this. There's a movie here that hopefully, I can play here. This is the best described at driving. If you look at a driving behavior, this is your typical where the little red dot is where the individual's looking at. And vision is this active process where the eyes scan the world where for information to help this person interact with the world. In this case here, in driving a car, it's an active process of interpretation, of representation, of reconstruction of the world and extracting information that is useful to the observer. And this is our primary source of sensory information. As I mentioned before, we have other senses, but this is our primary source, and it's so valuable to us that when we lose it or when it's impaired, it has massive implications for behavior. And I'll talk about the implications later on the slide itself. So it's this active process of just moving your eyes around, scanning the world, looking for things, recognizing things, detecting edges, detecting shapes, detecting color and form, and using that information to, in this case here, drive a car. So it's an active process of engagement with the world itself, and that sensory information is the key source of, well, visual information is the key source of this particular behavior. So in the course, we'll have courses and content that go into great detail about the visual system. The organ for vision is the brain itself. Of all the sensory systems, all the neural processes over the last 100 years, vision is the most understood. We understand a lot about how the brain, in particular, is responsible for visual perception. And this is the perceptual process. The perceptual process is what the visual system does. It's a process through which we detect information in the world, light information in particular, which is what we call the distal stimulus. The environment itself is the distal stimulus. That stimulus is then an image of that world is then formed onto the retina, which is the proximal stimulus, and the eyes itself contains, the back of the eye at least, contain photoreceptors that work to transduce that light information into electrical impulses. Then it's sent off to the brain for processing. The unit of processing, or where vision actually happens, is the brain itself. And if you ever wondered where the part of the brain where vision occurs, is actually the back of the brain. So in a structure what we call the occipital lobe, the back of the brain here. And if you're able to cup your hand and put your hand on the back of your head, right above that bony protrusion in the back of your skull, that's where your occipital cortex is, your visual cortex is. And research over the last 50, 60 years, and in the course we talk about a lot about this research and how fascinating it is, has led to our great understanding how the visual system works. Okay, now the goal of this entire system, and the goal of vision, is very, very simple, but nevertheless very, very profound for behavior. The goal of vision is to construct a representation of the world, because the world itself, the visual stimulus itself, the world itself is so rich with information that is useful for everyday behavior. And that is the goal of vision. It's to process this information, the world itself, and construct or reconstruct the world in the back of the brain and take out information from that representation, information that is useful to guide your behavior. Now, this is where vision gets quite fun, and I certainly think, as a vision scientist over 25 years, I find it most fascinating that even though perception and the way that we see the world appears to be so real to us, it's important to note that nevertheless it's a psychological sensation. It's a perceptual representation of the world itself. What I'm trying to say here is that vision itself isn't real. It's a psychological sensation. It's a reconstruction of the world itself. Even though to us, when we open our eyes and we see the world, it's so real to us. What we see is what we get when we see an object on a table and reach out and grasp it. It's a real object. And so a lot of the times, and no time to delve into philosophy, but what you see is the world itself. But it's important to note that actually isn't true. The world itself is a reconstruction. The perception, is a reconstruction of the world. And vision itself is a psychological sensation. When we see a color, when we see form, we see motion, it actually doesn't exist in the world. It exists in our mind. It's a reconstruction of the world. And this is where vision becomes really, really fascinating. This is an example of perception and how the world reconstructs how the visual system reconstructs the world. If you look at this image here, and if you scan and move your eyes over this image, it appears to jitter, doesn't it? Appears to move left and right and jitter back and forth, back and forth. That motion doesn't exist in the image itself. It actually is a product of your brain. Your brain seems to interpret this image and implies into it motion that actually is illusory. It's not real at all. These are classic cases of pareidolia. This is something that kids do a lot when they look at clouds. They see images in clouds. This is a very famous a few years ago, it became an internet sensation where NASA telescopes were able to image a comet that happened to move past, and in the corner of the comet was shapes that appear to be a face, and a big deal was made about the fact that this may be an alien out of space. It isn't. It's a perceptual interpretation. Your brain sees that, and the structures are there that resemble a face, and your brain latches onto that, and you see a face when actually there isn't. So the world itself is an illusion, and that's something which a lot of people find difficult to grasp, but it is the case. It's perception. Perception is a product of the brain. It's made up by the brain itself. Now, I'm hoping to demonstrate this. This is a really fun demonstration of where and why vision is made up. It's a product of brain process. This is a black and white picture, isn't it? It's a picture of a beach scene, and this is an illusion of color. What I'll do is I'll show next slide is the same scene but colored in the in a way that if you stare at it, it will generate an after image, and then what I'll do is show this picture again to you. Okay, so this is a black and white picture. My goal here is to restore the colors of this picture in its original form through a process of color adaptation. So this is the negative here. So there's a black spot in the middle, and I'd love people just to stare at that black spot in the middle. Okay, and I'll stare at it, please stare at it until, and I'll continue to talk for about 10 to 15 seconds. And what I'll do is to flip back to the black and white picture. Right now, the picture is black and white that I'll show you next. There's no colors at all in it, but by staring at this image, you activate certain receptors in your brain that are tuned to this particular color. And there is a phenomenon called the color after effect. If you view a particular color and you show a black and white picture afterwards, you'll see the color negatives. Okay, so as I'm talking, you're adapting to these particular colors. These receptors in your brain are working to detect that color, and then when next slide here, I'll show the black and white picture. You should see the beach scene restored to its original colors. All right, ready? I'm going to count to 5, and I'm going to show the black and white picture. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There you go. And so if you look now, the color of the image is now restored. It's the original colors of the image, and now you'll notice the colors are beginning to fade away now. But the original burst of color is the fact that your brain has interpreted the scene as being colored. It's colored the scene perceptually. The color doesn't actually exist in the image itself. So now as I'm talking, that color now has completely faded away, and it's the original black and white image itself. So it highlights again that vision is a construct of the world. It reconstructs the world, a representation, it constructs a representation of the world, and takes that information that is useful for guided behavior. Now, unfortunately, the visual system, even though it's this wonderful sensory system that provides with a wealth of information, unfortunately, many conditions will affect its performance, its functioning, leading to visual impairment. Visual impairment is a loss of vision or function that noticeably affects daily activities. It's a broad definition. There are various definitions for it, but by and large, it's a loss of vision that starts impacting on the way that a person interacts with the world itself. The loss of vision is quite profound because it reduces that sensory information, and that leads to limitations in the way that we act and behave. It's not a small problem. We estimate that over 13, and there are many statistics that are out there, over 13 million Australians have one or more chronic visual impairments. And sources of visual impairments can be due to ocular disease of the eye, like glaucoma, AMD, RP, or even eye trauma, or damage to the brain, cortical loss, traumatic brain injury. Strokes can result in visual impairment if that part of the brain that is involved in vision is affected. Systemic diseases like diabetes will affect it. Congenital disorders and congenital blindness are common and are known. Intrinsic and extrinsic, even the process of aging will lead to a degree of visual impairment. Most diseases, most medical conditions, most medical concerns impact the visual system. It's important to know. So it doesn't matter if your profession is physiotherapy, speech pathology. Vision is somehow related to that particular discipline and that particular medical service. So clients, and it's important to know that clients from a wide variety of different disciplines, they seek service from different disciplines. If that client has a visual impairment, it will impair and affect the way in which you can deliver that service, treatment, and also therapies as well. Okay, so it's important to know this is not a small problem. It's a major problem, and it's been amplified in particular with the continuing aging population. The problem's going to get worse. These are some key facts here to highlight that it's not a small problem, it's a major problem. In particular, again, the vast majority of people with some degree of visual impairment or blindness are those who are older, the older older people in our population itself. So it's not a small issue, and so therefore there's a need, because it's not a small and niche problem. There's a real need for educators, people with knowledge, expert knowledge about visual disability, to support the population through advocacy, through and tailored services across multiple fields. And Juno's already talked about some of those particular areas that you can seek service and careers in. I'm just conscious of this time. I'm going to talk for a few more minutes, and then I'll open up the floor for questions. It's just not simply an impact of blindness and on daily interactions. Yes, that's really, really important. And because vision is so important, it has this huge effect and cascading effect on various behaviors and abilities. Now, having a degree of visual impairment will impact your and lead to difficulties in finding objects, reading, will have a huge impact on, if it's quite severe, orientation and mobility, and also interacting with people. It's not simply a problem that can easily be fixed. It's a major issue that have broad range of implications for someone's behavior and also quality of life. But more importantly, which has been widely demonstrated, vision loss has huge implications for psychosocial behavior. Loss of independence, being blind or having visual impairments, will lead to loss of independence, social as well as also financial as well. Social isolation and depression are quite common in individuals with blindness. They're higher rates than the general population. And society's impact too is a huge demand on resources, from individuals needing to support from the community with visual impairment. So the implications of vision loss are not just niche, but actually quite broad. And so it's important to know, and the previous slide kind of highlighted that it just doesn't matter what service that you have. It may not be vision based, because vision is profound and it transcends most activities. If there is a visual impairment, it will impact the way that you deliver your service, or how clients affecting a client's quality of life. So the motivation behind the graduate certificate in vision impairment, my apologies, it's vision, and I've been lecturing for 4 hours and I've been talking about vision impairment is the right term here, is that we recognize that visual impairments are a major problem with the aging, particularly with the aging population. And this particular qualification, this graduate certificate, just arms and prepares students and for people with a career in this area that allows the individual to see and deliver services with a vision-related focus. Be it through providing advocacy, through education to improve or prevent vision blindness, and a good career pathway to other services and support services that address this important need in the community to help those with vision impairment. It's not a huge area, but we're looking to improve it. And this is one of the goals for this particular program. So I'm just conscious of the time. Yep, perfect. So it's 6:33 now. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I really want to give the opportunity, the last about 10 to 12 minutes or so, to open up to the floor. We have on this particular call lecturers and course conveners for various courses in the graduate certificate in vision impairment, and it's an opportunity for people to ask us questions. And this is it's a great opportunity because we're all here in one place, and we're hoping best as we can to answer the questions. So there's as I understand it, there's a Q&A chat here. I don't think that we have the ability, though it does look like the ability, you may be able to ask questions directly by unmuting yourself and introducing yourself, and then ask questions away. So we have Nicole, Juno, Felicity, and Matt Walker on the call, who'll be able to help answer any questions that you might have about the structure of the program, the material that you'll be learning, and also some of the potential career pathways after obtaining a graduate certificate in vision impairment. Thank you.
Yeah, I just turned on everyone's ability to turn on their cameras and mics if they wanted to. So please feel free to unmute yourself and ask some questions if you have any.
Maybe Felicity or Matt, do you have anything that you would like to add?
No, I'm looking forward to being a part of it. That's all I've got to add. Hi, everybody.
I think it's a really extraordinary opportunity to engage in this program. Well, we have a question.
Melinda.
Linda.
Melinda, you're mute.
Okay, I think hopefully now everything's working. So great presentation. Sounds like a very, very exciting course. I suppose I'm interested from the perspective of vision impairment in an ageing population and looking at the intersection between, for example, hearing impairment and cognitive impairment. So would that be something that the course would explore?
Yes, the answer is yes. So we touch upon obviously the visual. Melinda, you're very familiar to me. The answer is yes. So in various courses we touch upon the implications of visual impairment on other sensory systems and the support of vision from other sensory systems. And also there are modules and content in vision rehabilitation and the aging course, which deals with cognitive impairment and cognitive decline. And you're right, it's just not, as we age, it's not simply vision getting worse, it's everything else. It's just the process of senescence and change. And so we deal with that particular issue, that in the context of vision loss, that also is cognitive decline and other sensory decline as well, so that we present this kind of holistic view of how aging impacts people in general, with a vision focus on it for sure.
Will there also be information around navigating the different resources from the government, like My Aged Care, what these people might be able to get? Because I know that can be very perplexing if they need to get specialty low vision devices, especially if they're going into more of those assisted devices and things like that.
I wonder if the Matt or Felicity be able to answer. I think yes, but I think they may be a bit more aware where that would be in the course.
Yeah, thanks, Sue. Hi, Melinda. Yes, it is covered. At the moment, the material that we have in the program, it's covered. There's a lot to cover around My Aged Care and funding sources. So it's covered in as an overview. I wouldn't say at the moment the course has a huge amount of material on the detail of particularly the aged care system and My Aged Care, but it's probably something we should look at. We should look at increasing before the program kicks off. Yeah. So, look, I'd say yes, it has been included in the program, and we can relook at it, I suppose, and see if we've got enough information there around, particularly the My Aged Care system.
The nature of these courses, and particularly the way that we deliver it, we try to tailor it perfect as much as we can to the needs of the profession and also students as well. And so it's a forever an evolving curriculum, and it would make sense that if this is the most appropriate bit of information that we need in our program, we certainly would include it.
We're actually, just to add to that, so probably in some of the courses there's some options around assignment completion. So maybe that's another avenue as well, where someone with a particular interest in aged care and funding for aged care services could go down that track with an research assignment.
I think Jax has got her hand up. I know Jax.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I don't know if I can turn my camera on. I'll see if I can. I was just wondering, you were just talking about, making some changes or adjusting that might suit certain areas of career options. and we have a lot of teachers, just general classroom teachers, who are really interested in studying a little bit on vision impairments to support the students that they have in their classrooms. So do you think that there would be any subjects in this course that would support them in developing skills for supporting these students? The O&M obviously would.
Jax, I know that you're particularly familiar with the program, a lot of the courses in the program. So you could probably answer that quite well. But from my perspective, I would say that for people in education, the VISN 5522 vision rehabilitation, dealing with learning theories and teaching strategies would be particularly appropriate. All of the introductory courses in term 1, with the introduction to the visual system and eye disease, and then VISN 5513 foundations we've actually renamed it. So what is we now? Foundations in vision impairment. That has a lot on, as you know, the history and philosophies around disability service provision, around the environment and the interactions between the environment and the person, and their visual disability, their vision impairment, and what that means around, disability. So some of those areas I think would be particularly useful for people in education, particularly those support staff, teacher aides who may not have that educational a formal educational background, and may not have information on vision loss or low vision. I think that's one of the target audiences where I think this program could work really, really well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
I think unlike other disabilities, vision impairment, not just blindness, can often go undetected and unnoticed. So it can be a hidden disability that exists in the community, and there are certain strategies that need to be sort of considered when identifying and working with people with vision loss. So this is an extraordinary program that really just provides the training that is necessary to address that community need. So whether it's in the context of education or any other industry, I think it's completely relevant.
We have a question in the Q&A. I can read it out if you like.
Yep.
So it says, thank you so much for a wonderful session, including all visual functions when describing the implication and vision impairment. Why is it so that the definition of vision impairment doesn't include other visual functions such as contrast sensitivity? Only visual acuity and visual fields are considered for the definition of vision impairment.
A good question. This is an excellent question. It's a major bugbear for me. That just visual acuity in particular is a definition for visual impairment. Why? Traditionally, it's been the case. It's easy to measure, and people know it. It's mainstream. But in actual fact, my 2 cents is that visual acuity is actually a very poor measure of visual impairment. Contrast sensitivity is a much better measure of visual impairment, but that's a scientific and philosophical debate. But if we are able to educate people in understanding, and part of this course we do this too, to understand that visual impairment isn't just a loss of resolution acuity, which is visual acuity, but extends to other domains, then we can have a better picture and a more profound picture of what is lost when vision is, what is impacted when vision is lost, just not simply visual acuity, but contrast sensitivity. We know that in diagnosing diseases, particularly like glaucoma, visual function is measured as contrast sensitivity, and that's been really, really important. But generally speaking, it's a matter of tradition, really. I think it's a poor one, but it's more of a matter of advocacy. If we train enough people to realize that and see that vision is just not visual acuity reduction, visual impairment is not visual acuity. It's not visual impairment. It's not simply a matter of reduced visual acuity, but it's over a broader spectrum, and take that to the community, then that would lead to change in how we define visual impairment for sure. I think there's a question from Deepak, Dr. Deepak Kamoor.
I think that might be the last question.
Yep.
I completely agree with what you just mentioned, that yes, so holistically we need to look at the measurement and then consider, because in the clinic when we assess people with low vision, we realize that at times they may have good high contrast visual acuity, but their contrast sensitivity is impaired. Some of them may be really bothered about their impaired color vision. So if they have defective color vision or deficiency there, might be impacting their day-to-day functioning. And but those functions are not measured in routine eye examination, as well as when people claim that they are doing comprehensive eye evaluation, also does not include these functions.
Absolutely. And, you know, the standard trick, particularly from an optometry perspective, is to give glasses, and glasses corrects visual acuity. And that's seems to be the panacea for all visual impairments, but it's not. And you're right. You know, impairments and other forms and other visual attributes is something that isn't fixed by giving someone glasses. And I think that's the mainstay. It's traditionally been the case that visual acuity is something that is easy to measure. It's easy to treat in the form of glasses, more or less, generally speaking, and other things are left to the wayside, because the view is that if you fix and see things clearer, everything else comes into play and everything's resolved. But it's not the case. But this is something that researchers know for a long time. It just simply hasn't percolated out into the general community. And so awareness that we get from this particular program, students doing this program and graduating with this, bring that awareness to hopefully to the broader community.
All right, thank you. Back to you, Nicole.
Okay. Thank you everyone for joining tonight, and I hope you have a lovely evening. Just so you know, it was recorded, so we will share that out with everyone who registered. So anyone who may have missed, or if you missed anything, you can always go back and review that again for yourselves. But thank you, Juno and Sue, for running tonight, and have a lovely evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. See you, everyone.